Hello guys, welcome here. It is Sunday morning Tinkle. As you guys can see, got a new graphics card, so we're finally back. It's fully picture perfect now. No like cutting frames or anything. I thank you guys for your patience who are watching on the video side. And Jason, I figured I'd let you know this as we start. Apparently, thanks to our wonderful friends who help us get the audio version out at Anchor and Spotify, which is now Spotify Podcasts. We now have this in video on Spotify. So if you have Spotify, you can watch the video of this podcast now as well.
Pretty cool.
Yeah. I've been meaning to say that for about a month and a half, and it just slipped my mind. So, if you are watching, or if you have Spotify, if you are using it, you can listen to it, or you can watch the video of our podcast. So, here's to you, Spotify watchers. Did not know that was possible, but coming up, of course, I want to keep things rolling. We're going to, talk about media's worst take of the week. We are going to also talk about a new contract extension. The Jonathan Taylor saga continues or ends. We'll get to that. We will also talk about, kind of the no fun league, and we will make our picks and tinkle on this, but we begin with our takeaways. And Jason, you're up first as I'm going to pull up the games here.
Right. Oh, shoot. You're reminding me about that. So, sorry, everybody. Click a little pause in action here as I do that. But while that loads up on my screen, actually, hold up. Scores.
No rush.
Perfect.
No rush.
All right, everybody. So my takeaways, of course, I gotta talk about the Bills game. I gotta talk about the rabbit in the room here. Buffalo did eventually come alive in this game, but I think it was a little too late for them to come alive in this game. For the longest time, it was 11-0. Then it was 11-7 heading into half. Then there was no score really until late in the fourth quarter, where Jacksonville is looking to put up points. They get the Travis Etienne score 18-7. Then Buffalo is like, okay, we came alive now, and now the offense is starting to move along. They score, then Jacksonville scores again, and it's like back and forth. And I'm looking at it's like, maybe if Buffalo came alive sooner, this would have been a lot closer, different outcome. I think a lot of it was fatigue was playing into a factor here, as Buffalo didn't fly in until Friday, and this game was played at Sunday, technically Sunday morning here, but late Sunday in London because of the time difference. I think it's like 12-hour difference. So what was... Or maybe not. I don't know.
Probably like 8 or something. But
yeah, I was gonna say what was 9:30 here in the States was kind of like afternoon time for UK. But I will say this was an experiment. The NFL, I think, was trying to experiment how it would be if a team was truly in London, and I think that's why Jacksonville got 2 weeks in a row. Is they were trying to experiment like how would teams react if they had to play this team, if a team was, playing actually in UK, which, again, we can go on until we're blue in the face about everything with the London and the international series. I know it's not going to go away, and it's probably going to be here for a while. To be truthfully honest with you, I will say that fatigue, I think, plagued the Bills a lot in this game, and that's why a lot of injuries plagued, is because they were tired, they're fatigued, their bodies weren't used to the time difference. That's why I feel like a lot of injuries were happening. They weren't very well prepared for this game. I feel like what teams really need to do if they really are going to keep it going is I think they need to fly sooner so they can get acclimated to the time zone difference to playing in London, to being a little bit fresher for the game on Sunday. Like, I get it, if you play Sunday, you don't want to really fly right away, but if they fly like that Monday or that Tuesday, and then you have some more time to really get acclimated to the thing of London. Of course, it can be said, well, probably shouldn't play an international in London and Germany and all the other stuff anyway. And yeah, I'll agree. But if you look at it, a lot of things have played this game. I mean, Jacksonville kind of got hot, but their defense came to play. Buffalo's defense was holding them into, that game for the longest time until defense was just getting tired, because the offense couldn't move. Because the offense was tired, again, defense was tired. I will say that if this game was in Buffalo, it probably would have been a different outcome. But again, it does suck to lose Matt Milano and Daquan Jones. That also doesn't help. But I will say that some guys did come up huge in this game. Dorian Williams, who's a rookie, looked pretty good in place of Matt Milano, and AJ Epinesa in place of Gregory Rousseau, and Shaq Lawson came up, had 2 clutch sacks, a lot of bat downs. He looked pretty good in that game. Then I think they had 1 interception for Micah Hyde, but again, defense has been holding Buffalo a lot in this game. Of course, you did see that Stephon Diggs looked very frustrated, but was frustrated at not running the right route, not frustrated because the team was losing at the time. That man is, just the way he is. He's not a cancer. He's a captain on a team for a reason, and he just, will get into guys' faces. So again, it's a tough loss for Buffalo, but I think it's a loss that is going to help them coming up, and getting guys healthy for the Sunday night game against the Giants is going to be huge. So,
well, help them or hurt them, because again, I've said so many times how at the beginning of the season I said it. I'll say it again, that this is a division where there's just no room for error, and to me, this was a big error that they just allowed. I mean, not saying that Jacksonville is a bad team by any means. Jacksonville is, if not the 4 seed, they are going to be like the 6 or the 7 seed in the playoffs, I'd imagine.
Right.
So, I don't think we can sleep on them. But what I will say is, as far as Jacksonville, or as far as Buffalo goes, as well, going back to Miami's not a crap team. Just because Buffalo won by 28 doesn't mean that the outcome won't be different the second time around.
Right.
So I feel like, if there's games you're going to look back on, if the Bills do lose this division and have to play a wild card game on the road, I think this is one of those games where you're going to look back and say, man, like, we really shot ourselves in the foot with this one. So
yeah, I like I said again, I really do think that Buffalo should have read the personnel a little bit better. Okay, you're playing a game in London. Now, you get a sense of, like, say, like, if Buffalo was to play in London next year, I would hope to God that they're going to be better prepared and knowing that, okay, we got to fly sooner, get acclimated. You play a Sunday game, so that means practice is going to be Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. You fly, say, after the game or that Monday, you get a couple days to really get acclimated and stuff like that. Yeah, maybe that Wednesday is a walkthrough, but you will be fine by like Thursday, Friday. You're going to be used to the time difference, the time zone difference. You'll be a lot more fresher for the game, and then you can worry about things afterwards. So I think what a lot of this needs to be doing is, if they're going to start really having these games, I think that teams need to watch what happened with Buffalo against Jacksonville and start flying sooner, because I think if teams start flying sooner, they'll be a lot more prepared and a lot more fresher for the Sunday game itself. But, I mean, it does suck. But I will say this now, Brian. Yeah, I don't think it's going to hurt the Bills as much with getting a lot of these guys back, because, as you saw, they weren't able to get much pressure against the quarterback in that game because AJ Epinesa was the one that was utilized a lot to get them production to go after the quarterback. If they had more guys that could get after the quarterback, not saying that like the ones that they had couldn't, but I think that having a Gregory Russo, a Shaq Lawson, a Von Miller that might be a little bit more getting snap counts in this game because, he was limited all week long. This time he has no injury designation. I think he practiced fully all this week. I think it's going to be a different kind of game. Getting Christian Benford back is going to be huge. Of course, not playing Daniel Jones, playing Tyrod. It's going to be different, but honestly, I'm not going to take... I hope the Bills do not take the Giants lightly, because if you do, you're going to get burned.
Then there's...
I'm going to go into my... sorry, go ahead.
Before you go, I just want to close this out, at least my end of it, with this. Going back to London, of course, a lot of that can also be blamed on the field. We know how artificial turf... at least there's research now to support that artificial turf fields are the cause of a lot of these serious injuries, and of course might have costed Matt Milano his regular season at bare minimum. I'm
hoping that's not the case for both of them, but if it is, it is.
I just, there's a lot to be said about that too, and I hope the NFLPA... I know that there's a union agreement for years to come, but I'm hoping next union talks, whenever that happens to be, that this is brought up that, hey, we want all these fields changed to grass, or we're not playing.
It's tough in the sense of London, because they already have a turf field, but they push it in, so they kind of have no choice to have to use artificial turf for those games. So it's rough in the sense of London and Germany and stuff like that, because how are you supposed to change the field when they're specifically used as soccer fields itself? So that's a little different, but as far as just the regular 32-team stadiums, yes, I agree that maybe there should be more testing into that of the difference between grass fields and artificial turf fields.
And look,
in itself, so I don't think that's a bad thing.
I think we've gotten better at concussions. Now, obviously, we still need to take concussions very seriously in football, but I think we're at a point where this doesn't need to be priority one anymore, and I think the turf fields versus grass fields needs to be priority one in terms of research for the game.
I agree.
Again, concussion should never take a back seat, but
no, definitely not.
I think
I was going to say
a little more attention should be shifted to this.
Through about 5-6 weeks in, I'm grateful that there hasn't been, but I mean there has, but minor. I mean, if there are concussions that have happened, I know Anthony Richardson had one, but he came back I think the next week. So at least if it's happening, it's minor. It's not major.
I think there's only one that didn't, and that was Jimmy G. Jimmy G didn't come back the next week, but otherwise I think we made good progress.
I think we are making a lot better progress. I mean, somebody that is unfortunately a team and a player that's not making progress, unfortunately, is Justin Jefferson, which sucks because this is a team that had high hopes. I mean, look at what they did last year. They won the division. They were 13-4. They were looking hot. They looked like the team to beat. But how much of that was because of their easy schedule? This year, they don't seem to be the same team. I mean, they just haven't gotten any luck at all. And then losing a guy like Justin Jefferson, who is your top receiver, is going to suck. I think this is going to be a team that's just not going to get it together. They're going to start losing a lot of games. I don't think there's going to be really much faith in Kirk Cousins at all. So the real question, I didn't put it down, but the real question is do you think that Kirk Cousins is going to be on the hot seat? Do you think that he could be a trade person
100%.
This year? Because I mean, he's putting up the production, but it's not equating the wins.
See, this is a division that it looks like the Lions are going to run it now this year. Like, it's the Lions and then everybody else. Like, Lions are going to lock it up very quick. So I think, seeing that the growth that the Lions have had, and, it's been gradual, but now it's like substantial from mid last year to this year. The growth that they've had is substantial. That I think now Minnesota has to find a way, because Detroit is so young right now.
Right.
They've got to find
They
a
have
way
so
to
much
get younger.
opportunity to grow.
Now,
Minnesota.
that's not to
It's
say Minnesota doesn't have the parts and pieces. I think missing Dalvin Cook is a big part of it. Of
Yeah,
why their
I mean,
production
Alex
isn't
Madison
lower.
hasn't been really all that great of a running back for
Hmm.
them. I mean, I get it; they have Cam Akers too, but this
Yeah,
is also not the same Cam Akers like he was with the Los Angeles Rams either.
yeah.
So,
But now they do have Addison. They do have oh, what's the other receiver that they got? I know.
they have
I'm trying to find my
AJ
fantasy teams because
Osborne. They have added
yeah, Osborne and
Madison.
Addison. So I
Yeah.
don't think they're in deep trouble without Justin Jefferson, but I think this is unfortunately. I mean, 1-4. I think the season's lost at this point,
I was gonna
unless they
say
go on a Detroit Lions and Miami Dolphins run through the second half of the season.
they would definitely need a lot of guys to step up, and in place of Justin Jefferson being out, you definitely know that the production and the targets are going to go up for a lot of the guys that weren't getting as much targets because of Justin Jefferson being out there. Um, it's rough for Minnesota because the question is, not Kirk Cousins is going to be there. Who's to say that like if he doesn't get traded, he gets released? Of course, there's a lot of rumors circulating. Is like, well, Rodgers could go down the path of Favre and then end up in Minnesota. That'd be something. That'd be crazy. But I mean, but again, even Rodgers is not the question of even playing this year. He's making a lot of progress. I'm thinking he might be back by the end of the season, even though this is technically a season-ending injury,
Mhm.
because he's already been walking without crutches. So I mean, yes, he's been limping, but again, but as far as it comes to Minnesota, it really sucks for Justin Jefferson to be hurt. This is your top receiver. This is the guy that has been great for you guys ever since you drafted him. He's got you production. Um, Now, if you're Minnesota, you're looking back as like, shoot, it sucks not having Adam Thielen, who's actually turned his career around in Carolina.
Mhm.
So, I don't know. It sucks for them. But um, could Minnesota even try to trade for another receiver or so, or to give help to Kirk Cousins, or it just so many
See,
questions
what
that lie on Minnesota this year. I don't. I mean, it's rough. Do you just let the season play out and then just look into next season, or you have to like, okay, we got to do something? Like, we're a team that went 13-4 last year. We're 1-4 this year. We have so much aspiration to being like a win now type of team. Like, do we make the jumps to trying to trade to make this team better, or do we just say, F it and move on? Because
I feel like this season's kind of a wash. I think that's first and foremost there. Um, could they? What I could see happening, because we know Kyler Murray's on the trade block. We know
yeah,
he is. I could see them dealing Kirk Cousins to a team that needs a quarterback, um, and then, or even releasing him and just eating the cap, and then maybe making a move for Kirk Cousins or for Kyler Murray
I was gonna
potentially.
say, I think
I feel
Kirk
like
Cousins, this is his last year under contract too.
I don't think
So
so. He signed an extension.
I think he's set to be a free agent after this year, to my knowledge. I mean, I'm not gonna go and look and see, but I'm pretty sure this is either his last year or getting close to his last year
Yeah.
being in Minnesota. So I don't know.
Let's see. So Derek Carr, I believe, is one of them. Expected. Oh no, wait. Well, wrong page. My bad. All right, so Kirk Cousins is expected to be a free agent this offseason. I wouldn't even sign him to an extension just yet.
Kirk Cousins is
Yeah,
slated to be a free agent.
yeah. I think Minnesota's in a situation where they can afford to get rid of a first round pick, so that means, maybe trade a couple to Arizona and get Kyler Murray in this offense. I think that's a good possibility. I mean, once you get past Kirk Cousins, there's really nobody available. It's just Ryan Tannehill, Jacoby Brissett, Tyrod Taylor, all your backups, basically.
Yeah.
So I think that'd be their best option, is to just play it out this season with Kirk and then just go right after Kyler Murray.
See, now if you're Minnesota, would you just let it play out and then see if you can get, I don't know, a top quarterback in the draft too? I mean,
No, because you'd have to re-sign Kirk Cousins. And to me, if you re-sign Kirk Cousins, why would you draft a quarterback?
true.
If you're going to put that... Because I guarantee you Kirk's not re-signing unless they basically promise him they're not taking a quarterback in the draft.
True.
So,
Yeah,
you got to let him walk.
I was gonna say either let him walk or trade him now.
Yeah. I mean, I think... Yeah, like I said, I think you're in a position where you could give up a first rounder and get Kyler Murray. I really think you're in a position for that. Because look, I mean, second round, it's proven you can get a good running back in the second round of the draft. You can get a good running back, frankly, in the third round of the NFL draft who could lead your team. It's not out of the question. I think that's a big position of need, but I think the quarterback, the leader of the team, needs to be addressed.
I agree, and then I'm gonna send it to your way for your takeaways.
All right, so I've decided not to do. Any football ones this week because Chargers were on bye, and I feel like the football news was big enough to have its own section. So we'll start with the Twins, of course. Big series win against the Blue Jays, only to lose to the Astros in the ALWS. And can I just say, the Houston Astros, they have now advanced to their 7th straight championship series in the American League. So we go back to 2017 when they won the championship. Later discovered that they cheated by stealing signs.
A controversial one, then went again and won it.
Yeah, so I guess do you look at it as a dynasty with all that cheating scandal back in 2017?
I don't know. I guess so. I mean, if it's 7 straight, maybe, but I mean, only had 2 championships to go with 7 straight championship series appearances. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I mean, I feel like with 7 straight, you should maybe have more than just 2, maybe 3 or 4. If they had 3 or 4 out of the 7 straight that they've went to, then I could probably say, okay, yeah, they seem like a dynasty. I mean, to get 7 straight alone anyway, that's pretty impressive, but I don't know if I can claim that they're a dynasty yet with 2 World Series. I mean,
I feel like it's hard to argue. I mean, it's like the Patriots one, right?
I was going to say, this seems like the Patriots, because look how many times they went to we're in the conference finals and then also the Super Bowl, but didn't win it. So it could be something like that. It definitely does seem like a Patriots dynasty. So, yeah, I would think so. I mean, if they do it every single year, they're definitely doing something right.
Yeah, of course. And, you know, again, I feel like they deserve it. I feel like they deserve the title of that. Of course, 2017 World Series. They've made the playoffs also 7 straight seasons. Lost the AL Championship in 2018. Lost the World Series in 2019 against the Nationals.
I was gonna say they
Um,
won a World Series in 2020, didn't they?
they lost the AL Championship Series in 2020.
Oh.
That was against the Tampa Bay Rays in that shortened season.
Mm-hmm.
Then, of course, lost the World Series in 2021 to the Dodgers. Um, won the World Series last year, going 106-56. So, you know, and mind you, in that stretch of 7 years since 2017, they had 101 wins in 2017, 103 wins in 2018, 107 wins in 2019. Their most amount of wins, and lost the World Series that season. Um, the year that they lost the AL Championship Series was the only year they did not have a winning record, because again, it was only like a 60-game season versus
Right.
162. 2021, they won 95 games. Last year, 106, and won the World Series. Okay. Then
Hmm.
2023, 90 wins.
Crazy. No, only
So,
90. Oh, I mean,
um, I think
this
this
seems to be
is.
a theme that maybe when they, I mean, I don't know. Clearly, they're doing something right. They seem to get the average like
Mm,
90 to 100 wins a season. So, I mean,
yeah. Well, I think if you exclude 2020 from this, and I'm not a
mhm.
math expert, but I would say they average around like 98 wins a year, like
Seems
97,
like it.
98. Like I said,
Yeah.
exclude the 2020, because the 2020 season was just kind of that let's piece something together so people have something to watch kind of year. I'm not saying
Right.
that if they won the World Series that year, probably impressive. But again, the Rays went that year, and let's face it, the Rays, they're a team that it just seems like they hit early and then fall asleep the second half of the year. So
Right.
I don't know how much you can fault Houston for that. And I know many people don't like Houston, but I would say if they win the World Series this year, right now I think it could go either way. But if they win it this year, I think you make that argument that they are, in fact, a dynasty. I think there's no dispute at that point. And mind you, this is a team that went out and got Justin Verlander at the trade deadline to make this push to get to the World Series. Again, for those who don't know, Verlander was a part of their 2 World Series teams. He left for the New York Mets this offseason. The Mets tanked and ended up trading him back. So Verlander's back there and could be in his final run for the World Series. But,
Right.
you know, again, love him, hate him, I'm indifferent to him. But I think, again, they win this year. There's no more argument of if they're a dynasty or not. 7 straight years in the playoffs, 3 World Series to show for it, and 5 appearances in the World Series. I would say yes, they absolutely are a dynasty. And
Right.
and mind you, as well, before I change takeaways here, as well, that again, 4 World Series appearances. If they win this series and go to their 5th and win,
I was gonna say three times in 5 tries. I mean, that's pretty impressive.
well, I mean, they haven't missed the playoffs. But what I was going to say is, baseball's a lot harder, I think, than, say, basketball and hockey,
What, to make the playoffs every year?
Yeah, there's 12 teams out of 30 that get in. You have 162 games to get in. And usually by about game 120, 130, you kind of know what you got. And at that point, you know, it's either do you maintain or is that it? Like, so by the time you get to the playoffs, you're probably playing 200 games by the time you get to the World Series. Close to 200 games. I'm saying that's a lot of wear and tear. And I get baseball's a little bit more, I don't want to say casual, make people mad, because I don't feel that's the right term. But I feel like that's about the best term I can use at this time. So, but again, I feel like it's so much more difficult because of the length of the season. Because if you bury yourself in 130 games, there's no climbing back into this in the last month. I mean, you're not... I mean, look at baseball within 10 games. There is very rarely a time where you see a team go 10-0 through 10 games. There is rarely a time you see teams go on stretches of winning that many games in a row to begin with. You know, and look at basketball. I mean, basketball's more the example because, I mean, you could go 12-0, 13-0 to start a basketball season. I wouldn't say no problem, but I would say a little bit easier than in hockey or baseball.
Yeah.
You know, in terms of degree of difficulty to do it. It's not impossible for baseball or hockey, but it's a lot more difficult because baseball, again, you're changing pitchers every game. Hockey, you might not have the same goalie in net for all 10 games or 11 games. So,
true.
And again, you might not have the same people on defense or at bat in the same order in baseball. So,
see, the crazy thing is that sometimes with basketball too, you might not even have the starting five, and that start the same starting five 10 or 11 games in either, because you're experimenting with different rotations. I guess it's different more so for like football, because a lot of times you're gonna have the same starting 11 and same on offense and defense. Typically, sometimes you'll rotate guys in and out. Don't get me wrong, but
I feel like in general, this whole thing, just to sum it up, I feel like this whole dynasty thing is buried for Houston. I feel like we don't look at it as seriously as we do football, as far as the Kansas City Chiefs, because everyone's on the Kansas City Chiefs bandwagon here, saying that they're a dynasty, when, you know, look, they've had a remarkable stretch too. I can't deny it. But they didn't win, 4 Super Bowls in that stretch of 6 years. They didn't appear in all of them. I feel like theirs is more impressive, but I feel like it's overshadowed because of how big football is in this country. And of course, because it's Patrick Mahomes and how much of a stature he is in the game, and now Travis Kelce, which again, Taylor Swift, who gives a fuck? But I feel like it's just overshadowed all there. So, and of course, because the cheating scandal in 2017, I feel like that's the biggest reason it's overshadowed. But I would say, if we're looking at North American sports, in conclusion, Houston is more the dynasty than the Kansas City Chiefs are. That's just my takeaway from this. We can put that in the worst takeaway column for when I'm done with this second one if you want, but that's, up to obviously the viewers and the listeners to determine that. But next takeaway, NHL season has begun. And we want to talk about Connor Bedard here. I know many of you are probably like, oh my God, there's more hockey players than this guy. Let's quit talking about him all the time. But Connor Bedard has made his much anticipated NHL debut. And if you haven't heard of Connor Bedard yet, I don't know how you haven't. on SportsCenter or anything because he is supposedly the next big generational talent in hockey. 18 years old, made his debut for the Blackhawks the other night. Of course, through 2 games so far that I'm aware of, 1 goal, 1 assist. Overall, I mean, I think it's a solid start. I feel like, he's kind of getting that Mahomes treatment his first season of, oh man, he could be the next big thing, but I don't know. I see a little bit of overhype this early in the season, but again, I mean, look at what this guy's done in Canada. I mean, this guy's he's the real deal. I mean, it's tough to say that he won't be. And I feel like he's the only thing the Blackhawks have going for them, so why not give him the hype?
Right, exactly. I mean, hey, here's to hoping he can have a great first year. If he can do well, 18 years old, why not? But usually a lot of 18-year-olds don't get the opportunity to start right away in that. And NHL, usually they play a lot of minor leagues before getting into that NHL. So, I mean, at least he's, I guess, doing something right. And Chicago is willing to take the chance on him, which I guess isn't a bad thing. I know Chicago used to be a pretty good powerhouse back in the day. I don't know how much they are now, but
in the 2010s they were phenomenal with Patrick Kane and all those guys. But again, I think he's gonna be good. I think it's early to tell. But again, he's the only thing Chicago has going for him in terms of hockey right now.
Right.
So let him have this moment, at least early in the year. He's 18 years old. Like you said, not many 18-year-olds in hockey, let alone baseball. These 2 sports, you don't see 18-year-olds come, they get drafted, but they don't come up to the NHL for at least 4, or the MLB for 3 to 4 years.
I was gonna say you see a lot of those young players usually in the minor leagues to get the feel of playing professionally for the first time, getting a feel of it, and working in the team aspect in that sense, and then working their way up to the pros. Not getting drafted right from college and then playing for the pros like almost immediately.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. Sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't. I think that you should consider yourself lucky in that you're getting that spot and don't mess it up. Don't get stupid. Don't think like, oh, well, I'm 18 and I'm making enough money and I can do whatever the hell I want. Don't be that kind of guy. Be somebody that's gonna be, go with your money and go out there and be like, I feel honored to be able to get this opportunity to play, and there's a reason that I'm gonna go out there and show, the reason why I got drafted in the first place. So you got to think about having it like that for a guy like him. So hopefully he does well. I'm hoping that he ends up being the next big star in the NHL. I mean, who knows? Maybe this is a good thing for Chicago.
Of course. And with that, I don't really have much more to say on that. So let's move to the media's worst take of the week. Jason, we saw this one on Sunday. It might be last week, but we've got to say it this week. Kyle Brandt puts up his quarterback tiers. Let me pull it up because I do have it on my phone. So we had Mahomes in his first tier. Joe Burrow, Josh Allen, tier 2.
Right.
Rodgers, Jackson, Herbert, tier 3. Tier 4, this one you could argue, Russell Wilson and Deshaun Watson. Jimmy G, tier 5. Pickett, Mac Jones, Tua Tagovailoa in tier 6.
And Trevor Lawrence.
And then Stroud, Levi, and Richardson
Stroud, Levis. It's
And
Will Levis.
how do you put Levis in a quarterback tier when you don't even have Tannehill in one? When Tannehill's the starter of that team, that's number one.
It makes no sense.
Number two, what has Pickett done so far to even be in a quarterback tier bracket?
I mean, I guess Pittsburgh's not terrible this year. I mean, they are currently leading their division at 3-2, but again, you're probably right. I would probably more so put them in the tier 7, if anything. But I guess Pickett being 6 isn't a terrible spot. I mean,
see, C.J. Stroud has done more than Kenny Pickett right now, and that's sad.
See, this is why I want to know when he made these quarterback tiers. Were this during the season or before the season? Because if it's before the season, I can understand. If it's during the season, it's like, okay. I mean,
well, not for nothing,
I guess, but
not for nothing.
Again, even after having the season that they had, even with Tua being hurt and Trevor Lawrence last year, how can you put him? How can you put them in tier 6? How can you put Wilson and Watson over Tua and Trevor Lawrence? Even when Tua got hurt, he still looked good out there. Even Lawrence, went out there and had a pretty decent season. I don't think that's even worth putting out there. And I mean, if it's just stuff from last year, okay, I can understand Jimmy Garoppolo because when he was playing for San Fran, even before getting hurt, he didn't look that bad. It just
I don't know. Tua and Lawrence should be tier 2 right now. I mean, Lawrence, you could argue tier 3. I think you could argue that. Why Rodgers is still tier 3 is beyond me, because unless we're going on career accomplishments, in that case he should be tier 1 with Mahomes. If we're going on career accomplishments, now Mahomes hasn't been in the league long enough for me to be putting him tier 1 with Rodgers necessarily, even though he's got more Super Bowls. But, and again, Herbert, I think that's accurate. Josh Allen and Tua Tagovailoa, look, hate me all you want, Chiefs fans. They are the front runners right now for MVP. There is no argument that you can make against it. It's the truth. They are both the leading MVP candidates now.
After the last few weeks, even that loss to Jacksonville, Josh Allen still had 2 passing touchdowns and a rush touchdown, and or actually maybe
look.
Yeah, no, I don't know.
Well, look.
I guess technically there was 3 touchdowns, I guess, but
again, they're both leading it. Tua still looked good despite losing by 28 to the Buffalo Bills. Okay.
Right.
So Tua, frankly, to me, if you asked me this week, I'd say they're both pretty dead even in terms of the MVP race. Now, Mahomes slots into 3rd based on Thursday Night Football as well, but I would say he's a very, very distant 3rd. So I think that's a fair assumption. So Kyle Brandt, I don't know what grading system you're using. It seems like you're all over the It seems like you're all over the place in terms of how you're ranking these quarterbacks. And I've respected Kyle Brandt for a little bit. I thought he's a decent analyst. He does okay on Good Morning Football. But, my God, this just seems like he's just going all over the board. Russell Wilson shouldn't even be Russell Wilson should be in tier 6 right now.
Yeah.
At least tier 5 if we're going on career accomplishments, because he's definitely done some good stuff in his younger years in Seattle. But there we go. That's our worst take of the week, guys. I'm trying to speed things up because we do have to get to our picks soon. Jonathan Taylor and the Colts have agreed to a long-term extension, 3 years, $42 million. Oh, man. Jason, I don't think we expected this because of how everything sounded coming out of Indy between both parties.
What I find hilarious before I even talk about the contract extension, what I find hilarious is that happened, and then Zach Moss had the game that he did during that same time that he got that extension and then came back and was going to play. The problem I have with this is that Jonathan Taylor's production, how much is this going to hinder? Because Zach Moss right now has more of, the offense down, has been in game shape, and really Jonathan Taylor is trying to get back into game shape. How much of this is going to really hinder Jonathan Taylor, even though he got that? I mean, I get it. He's going to eventually be the lead back once he's, gets back into regular season shape and, gets everything down and whatnot. I don't think it's going to take as much time as I think it will be for Jonathan Taylor. But how much does Zach Moss really play a factor in what kind of production Jonathan Taylor is going to get, even though he just signed that big long-term extension? Because the guy came off of like a 28 carry, 172 yard, 2 touchdown game, and got the win for the Colts. So it just I'm looking at it as I don't think it's going to be a bad combo between Jonathan Taylor and Zach Moss. I think that Indianapolis isn't a terrible team. I think they're 3-2 right now. They're they could potentially win that division this year. So I mean, Indianapolis is not out of it. It sucks that Anthony Richardson is hurt. This man, I just don't think he can stay healthy on the field long enough for the team. But Gardner Minshew, I don't think is a bad quarterback for the Colts. I think that in his time coming in for Anthony Richardson has been pretty good. So I think that the Colts are in a good spot. Having Jonathan Taylor coming back, getting him, if he can come back to where he was before this whole drama and everything like that, I think that Indianapolis will be in a good spot. But as far as the contract, now I'm going to talk about the contract. I think it's a little much and maybe a little bit steep for a running back. I will agree, but how much of the Colts were getting desperate? They didn't want to lose him, have him going into a really good team, winning a ring, burning them. So I think that it's a little bit of desperation on the Colts' part. Is okay, we're desperate. We're kind of there on the spot. We could be a playoff team this year. We need a guy like that back, so we're willing to work with you, and that's why I feel like that contract came at the time it did, is because the Colts know that they can be a good team this year. They could be a playoff team. They could potentially be an underdog this year. I mean, I'm just saying.
Well,
you never know.
3 years too is also the duration of Anthony Richardson's rookie deal. So this could also be, because the contract would start next year. So this is a way to kind of take the pressure off of Anthony Richardson.
Yeah,
and
I agree.
I feel like it also will enhance him. It'll take him to the next level. I don't think Zach Moss has the capabilities of taking Anthony Richardson to the next level. I just don't see it. I'm sorry. Look, Zach Moss is a solid number 2 running back. He is not a guy who is capable of leading the backfield, changing the pace of the game like Jonathan Taylor is. Jonathan Taylor is that guy. So, but again, I'll wrap up my thoughts here with this. Jonathan Taylor, again, this was, I really didn't see this coming. I'm dead serious. I thought we were headed for an October 31st deal for him to get sent off for a first pick. I thought maybe Minnesota could play for him. I thought maybe Miami could play for him. I know the Chiefs were floated in that discussion. I thought for sure he was going to be off the roster on October 31st, one way or another. It really looked like it was headed that way. So I am really shocked that they worked this out, and I'm even more shocked that he is going to stay in Indianapolis long term.
Right. I am too. I'm grateful that you got it. But again, I'm just going to say it now. I think that they were getting to a point where, this has got to be the season that we.
Well, I
wouldn't say go all in on, but they have a pretty good chance of being a pretty good team this year.
Well, I think a lot of people expected Jacksonville to jump out of the gates, firing 4-1, 5-0. something like that. And then it
Well,
was
we
just
really
going to
haven't
be
seen that
good
much
luck
this year at
everybody
all.
else, but it
Right.
wasn't that. So on that note, it feels like they have a shot. If not, I don't think they have a shot at a wild card, but I think you wouldn't do this. You wouldn't sit down at the table if you didn't think you could win the division with the quarterback that you have that's on IR.
Right.
So, and also if you didn't think you believed in his future. So I feel like Jonathan Taylor's watched a lot of those games and he's like, I could have success with Mahomes. I could win rings. I could go to Minnesota, battle for the NL championship or NFC championship every year, or I could go to Miami and be in the toughest division in football every year. And he's like, this is a division I can win. This is a team I could lead to the playoffs and frankly surprise people. So I think that's what it came down to.
Yeah, it probably did.
So, but with that, let's go on to this one because I feel like this one's going to take a little bit of time before we get into our picks, which we're going to have to kind of rifle through at this point because we're already 50 minutes in. So, George Kittle was fined $14,000. His celebration, of course, he ripped up his shirt or his jersey, which said "Fuck Dallas" underneath the jersey on a T-shirt.
Right.
No fun league strikes again, Jason. I'll let you start this.
I agree. I can understand it, but even okay, then if that's the case, then Stevie Johnson back in when he had pull up his shirt and said, "Why so serious?" Then he should have gotten fined for that. I mean, I really do think it's kind of getting soft. I understand that they had the whole thing with taunting and stuff like that, and you can't really do that, and tripping and all the other stuff. But again, if it's a one-off, I get it. But come on, I mean, you already took away celebrations and brought them back. Now it seems like could eventually get back to the point where NFL is going to take away celebrations because it takes too much away from the game type of thing. Let them have fun. So what? I get it. Maybe it was a little excessive with a shirt. I get it. But,
Look,
again, I don't think I would fine them.
you're on Sunday Night Football. That's what I'm going to say. You're on Sunday Night Football. That's number one. Okay? Chances are, I don't know what time this dropped, but after 10 o'clock, you don't have to worry about swearing on the air, to my knowledge. And that's the one thing I know about television. Remember the days when the rivalries used to be so big? It feels like we have softened those rivalries, minus the Green Bay Chicago when Aaron Rodgers went on that whole "I own you" tour. But Dallas and San Fran, outside of their conferences, outside of their divisions, have been rivals throughout the 90s and part of the 80s.
I was going to say 80s and 90s for sure.
What is so bad about renewing that rivalry to the point of we are taking it personal? Okay? What happened to that? College rivalries have become more aggressive and more prominent than Major League Sports now. Because,
Right.
God forbid, you wear a shirt that says "fuck the other team" and not get fined or suspended. Okay? The Red
True.
Sox-Yankees rivalry hasn't been good. It hasn't been that same fire it's been in years. Chicago-Green Bay, it's been close. It's, 2 years ago was really the closest we've gotten, I think, to that old rivalry. Colorado State, earlier this season, for God's sakes, we had a coach calling Deion Sanders a child. He borderline called Deion Sanders a child. And this team came out and said, we are taking it personal now. And went out there, and it was a bloodbath. I'm not saying we need all of our rivalries to be bloodbaths. there's a point where the line's got to be drawn of, okay, we are taking this too far. Where people,
Right.
Look, can we just have a balance of we are people at the end of the day and we care for our fellow man, but my God, you are wearing the opposite jersey. I am going to destroy you in these 60 minutes that we are playing. Can we just get back to that? Look, I would love it if Jordan Love said after the Chicago and Green Bay game, I would have loved it if Jordan Love went into the media center or wore a hat that said new ownership team or something for the Chicago Bears. I would have loved that 100%. Because you know what? Rivalry renewed. Okay. Football, look, if you want to draw ratings, let's quit making these guys be robots. Let's quit, like I said, there's a point where taunting gets too far. If you're getting in the face and throwing punches and doing that stuff, that's bad. But shit, like you're ripping up a shirt. Hell, 2 weeks ago, Stephon Diggs smashing beers together like Stone Cold Steve Austin. Why have we gotten so gosh darn soft? My God. I mean,
if he was to physically drink them afterwards, yes, I can understand the fine, but like he was just taking some fans' drinks, which they were okay with it, by the way, and then just like had the celebration. So what? He's having fun out there.
As long as he's not throwing the beer as long as he's not throwing the beer out into the field, who cares? Who cares? Look, we need these rivalries to go back. Because, look, I think it would draw more ratings. I think, it would be to a point where you could say, we need to put these rivalries in prime time. Like how Browns and Steelers. It would be great to see Deshaun Watson go into the media and say, we're going to beat them by 40. We are going to end this. The Steelers aren't shit. Like, basically, it would be nice to see Deshaun Watson go into the media and say that and then have his coach back it up. I would love nothing more than to get back to the trash talking and saying, we're going to take these 60 minutes and run them over. Like, and then wear the shirts, wear the hats that say, like, we own you or something. Like, come on. Let's just get back to that. Like, I just don't get it anymore. Like, it's like the NFL just does not want, things that could really, stir up these rivalries. Let's not get it to a point where we have to stop the game because all 106 players have started a fist fight. But let's at least get it to a point where, hey, the hits are a little bit harder. The celebrations are a lot more, borderline taunting, but not what we would classify as, like taunting to a point that would start a fight. Like, let's bring that shit back. Like, it would bring the ratings up so much. So, but I digress from that point because we got to get to our picks. We're already at the hour mark, so let's fly through this. So, where's the tab? There it is. All right, let's begin with the game in progress right now. Ravens and Titans. Baltimore favored by 4.5.
I'm going to say Baltimore here. I think that they've really been surprising so far, even though they just came off that loss to the Steelers.
Yeah, Baltimore's my pick as well. Commanders and Falcons. Falcons by 2.5.
I'm going to see Atlanta here because, yeah, I'm going to say Atlanta.
I'm going to go with the upset. I'm going to say Washington here. I think the Commanders are going to get the upset. So
also, I hate to, talk about this, but Ritter has not lost a home game ever in his career.
This will be his first. So
actually, I think last week was a home game for the Falcons too and won. So
I'm willing to throw that out there. This will be his first. But with that, let's move it on because Vikings and Bears, 2 1-4 teams. Vikings favored by 3.
I'd gonna say the Vikings.
I'll say Vikings too. Seahawks, Bengals, Cincinnati favored by 3.
I don't know. This one's. I feel like it's gonna be a really good game, and I'm hoping it's televised because this is gonna be a good game. I'm gonna say Seattle wins it on the road here.
I wish I wasn't working 10 hours while this is broadcasting and while the 1 o'clock games are going on. But I'm going to say Cincy. I think they're getting their mojo back. And they'll continue it here. 49ers, Browns, we might as well just both say 49ers, right?
Yeah, 49ers.
Panthers, Dolphins, are we both just going to say Dolphins?
Yeah.
All right. Colts, Jaguars, Jags favored by 4.
Now, this is going to be the game. I'm going to say the Colts, because don't the Colts always seem to get the one-up on the Jags somehow? I'm going to say the Colts get the victory here on the road. I'm going upset.
I'm going to go with the Jags. I think the London series definitely helped them, get their mojo going, so I'm going to go with them. Saints, Texans, Saints favored by 2.
Yeah, I'm. I want to say I'm going to go with the Saints, but it would not shock me if the Texans get the upset here.
I'm going to go with the Texans upset, so I'll say Texans upset here. Patriots, Raiders favored by 3.
I'm going to say upset. I think the Patriots are going to upset the Raiders.
I feel like Bill Belichick's going to get the best of his former offensive coordinator, too. So I'm going to say Patriots. Cardinals and Rams. Are we just going to both say Rams?
Yeah, Rams.
All right. Eagles.
I think this game's going to be a lot closer than it's going to seem.
Yeah.
Now, this next game, I'm going to go with the Eagles.
Yeah. I think we both are in agreement there. Lions and Bucks. This one could be a good one. Detroit favored by 3.
I think this is going to be pretty close. I mean, I'm going to still say the Lions, but this is going to be a game to watch for sure.
I'm going to say Lions and Baker with no expectations, man. He is really rejuvenating his career in Tampa. Bills, we're picking the Bills on Sunday night. I don't think there's a dispute there.
Tyrod and Josh Allen. It's going to be interesting. But I'm going to have to go with the Bills. I don't think it's going to be as much of a blowout as they think it will be, but I could be shocked.
Yeah. Cowboys, Chargers, Dallas favored by 1.5.
I'm going to say Chargers upset.
I want to say it, but every year we go 2-2 to start. We always end up 2-3, so I'm going to say Dallas. Jags Saints, that's the Thursday night game coming up. Jags favored by 1.
Yeah, I can see Jacksonville probably winning on the road.
I agree. I think the Saints' downfall these next few weeks is what we're going to be talking about. But I think it's going to be... I think it's the first good Thursday night game we've had. So, can't wait to see what happens here. With that, let's go on to Tinkle on this. Shoot, did I scroll too far down? All right, there we go. So... I want to talk about this. Let's go back to the Dallas Cowboys and San Francisco 49ers game. Dallas Cowboys scored less points than the Rangers did runs on Sunday versus the Orioles last week. How about them boys, huh? That's my response. For that, Dallas, Mike McCarthy, and your shit coast offense, Tinkle on this.
Crazy to think about. Just I don't know. That's all I can say. Maybe they're just overhyped. That's all I can think of.
Man. All right, what's coming up on No Final Bell here?
Yeah, Title Tuesday, man.
Hmm.
That's what's going to be coming up on Out of Turn 4. We talked about Title Tuesday. We had 2 title changes.
No, that's not going to be coming up on Out of Turn 4 on Tuesday.
Well, sorry. Wednesday we'll be talking about it, but it was Title Tuesday for Dynamite. So it was actually Dynamite on Tuesday, not on Wednesday.
Yeah,
but
you said
be
coming up on Out of Turn 4, so that's why I had to correct you.
Oh, sorry. For No Final Bell, it was Dynamite Tuesday that we'll talk about. We had 2 titles change hands, and we have our first official match for Full Gear, so we'll be talking about that. And maybe other things too. But what is coming out of Turn 4? I know you're getting very close to the end of the NASCAR season.
Man, yeah, we are. So Las Vegas this weekend. Last time they were in Vegas, it snowed. So we will not see that this time. Oh, God willing, God willing, we will not see that this time. And God willing, we won't see it here in upstate New York or next Thursday. God willing, we won't see any of that until early December. So,
fingers crossed.
Yeah, we got some off-season news we're still talking about. Carson Hocevar has a new team. We've got, like I said, a lot of NASCAR news. Kyle Larson has completed his Indy 500 rookie orientation program, which means he will be running in the double, of course, the Indy 500 and the Coke 600. I'll give you my thoughts on his odds and all that. That's all going to come up on Out of Turn 4 this weekend. I know, or this Tuesday. I know we've had very short episodes lately. A lot of the silly season news is kind of already broken, so it's kind of slow news weeks here on the racing side, but we'll be here Tuesday at 5. They'll be on Wednesday at 5. We'll be back here next Sunday, and man, then after next Sunday, we'll be in Buffalo. So,
yeah, we're
looking forward to that. So, for the both of us, we'll see you next Sunday. Till then, goodbye, everyone.